and welcome to The Truth Hurts with me, Tony Quinn. The Truth Hurts is a show about recovery and everything in between. And today we have the beautiful Mmathabo in studio with us. By studio, I mean my house and a couch and a camera phone that's filming us. Anyway, I'm really honored to have you with us today. I first met Mmathabo on Facebook, and what I loved about you is that you would post stuff that's fucking hilarious, and you have a sense of humor about addiction, and you are very passionate about recovery. And I think that's something a lot of people need to see, that recovery can actually be fun, you know? And you do that. So, you are 1 year sober?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That's incredible. 1 year to get to that point is really tough, dude. So well done. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Okay. It's a bit heavy.
Go for it.
Okay.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, massive.
Heavy. I actually know a bit of this, guys. Just Julie Rano, prepare.
Okay. So I was born on the 23rd of November 1991. I was the third in what became 4 children. I have an older sister, 2 brothers, one older, one younger. So yeah, I grew up in a sort of middle to upper middle class family. My father worked very hard to give us what he thought were all the best things in life. So when I was 3, I was gang raped by my uncle and 6 of his friends. It wasn't an isolated incident. My dad had hired him and his friends to be our garden service. So sort of every week when they came over, they would take turns taking me to the garage and raping me. From when I was 3 till I was about 4. I went to nursery school, and I learned enough English to explain to one of my friends what was being done to me at home. And she said, "That's not okay. Next time they do it, you should bite it off." I didn't know what she was saying. I should bite off. So the next time they came over, they started their game with me. I bit off one of their fingers. Thank you. That's all I'm saying. And they refused to come back to their garden after that. They told my family that finger had been bitten off by a bullfrog, which is, yeah.
Because they have hectic teeth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't do that. I mean, you know. So that put an end to that. But unfortunately, my parents still dropped us at my grandparents' house sort of every second weekend. So he still had access to me, which is where I was introduced to my first drug of choice, alcohol, at the age of 4. They would ply me with enough beer that I wouldn't resist, because obviously I was now fighting. And then they'd pass me around like a joint. My uncle struggled to find employment, which is why my dad had hired him. So around the age of 5, he began to prostitute me in the township for beer and weed money or whatever he was taking. And then he'd just pay me with sweets, and everything was all dandy.
Did you, this is so hectic, was this your normal?
Yeah. And
you thought this is what a lot of other kids have to deal with?
Yeah. So I wouldn't, at that time I didn't say I had a happy childhood. This is just part of what happened.
Yes.
This is what men do when they love you, is what my uncle said. So he used to call it playing toys, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching children the proper names of things. Because when I went to my teacher at school saying my uncle and his friends play toys with me and I don't like it, she didn't understand what I was actually saying. She was just like, yeah, but you know, sometimes we must do things we don't like, and you know. So when I was around 7, my mom caught my uncle raping me, and she said if he ever does it again, she'll tell the police. Obviously at that point she didn't understand the extent of what was happening. I'm sure she assumed that was just an isolated incident. Anyway, that essentially put an end to the 4 years of hell that he'd put me through, and we never went to my grandparents' house again. But it felt like I was the one being punished, because nothing was done to him. And when we were caught, I wasn't allowed to see my grandmother anymore, so it felt like it was my fault.
You got the consequence.
Yeah. The same happened later on when I was in grade 3. My dad moved us to a private school. Obviously he wanted us to get the best of everything, but I had very abnormal social skills. Couldn't really relate to kids my own age, so I'd be sort of found wandering the fields alone after school, and that's how I befriended a cleaner at the school who molested me for 2 years. between the ages of 9 and 11. When I was in grade 6, one of the teachers caught him raping me in one of the classrooms. My mom was called in, but the school wanted to save face, obviously, and whatnot, so we just moved schools. Again, I was the one being punished. Nothing happened to him. So that sort of...
And that's also your normal now, so you think if someone hurts you, it's your fault.
Yeah. And, so then I moved schools in grade 7. I mean, by then I was all over the show. I'd had, by the age of 12, about 5 suicide attempts. I developed anorexia to the point where I had to be hospitalized at one point. So sort of entering puberty was very emotionally hectic for me. I forgot to mention, because of all the rapes, I can't have kids, which is also something that weighs on me. So I got into high school. I then still had the eating disorder, still severely depressed, suicidal. I then started cutting as well, just any emotional escape. And I didn't know why I had this pain. I hadn't connected anything yet. But I still tried to be social. I was very athletic. I sort of became very popular. But obviously on the inside and at home it was a different story. When I was in grade 9, I went to my first house party. I was so excited. I got drunk for the first time. But obviously the disease of addiction, one is too many, 1,000 never enough.
Yeah.
I drank myself fucked up, excuse my language.
Yeah, you can swear.
And, and then I sort of passed out and the guy raped me. For me, that was the most pivotal rape because I said no.
And you recognized it as that?
Yes. I said no and I tried to fight him off, but I was so drunk. And he had taken me to a bedroom to help me sleep it off, and
to look after you.
Yeah, and someone from the school actually ended up opening the door and being like, dude, what you're doing is so fucked up. Like, that is so fucked up. Like, either leave her to sleep or, like, just get the fuck out. And so that was... Yeah, it was the most damaging. I mean, I know to other people the childhood would have been more traumatic, but I didn't know that was wrong.
Yes,
This I knew was wrong. This I felt my power being taken from me. And I think I had 2 suicide attempts that year. I just felt like I grew up with rape me tattooed across my forehead, really. It was just... Yeah, so I never had any sexual contact with men after that. I didn't drink. I didn't really go out. But I still maintained this facade of being happy and bubbly and,
popular.
Yeah. To the extent where when I was 17, I actually came out as a lesbian. That is how the hatred and mistrust of men, that's how deep it went. I just wanted nothing to do with them.
Just push them as far away as possible.
Yeah. And throughout my childhood, I had a very, very bad relationship with my father. He beat me often. He beat me black and blue. He always saw me as this bad child in need of discipline. Thankfully now in my recovery, that we know each other better, he realizes I was just a damaged child crying out for help. So I've actually got a good relationship with my dad.
You restored that?
Yeah, which I never ever thought I would have, ever. I hated my dad.
Have you guys kind of spoken about that?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I sat him down, explained my childhood to him, and he actually took 2 weeks off work after that. He wasn't expecting, it's still a mind fuck for him how that could have happened without him knowing. And my mom not telling him, obviously. So with all the mental abuse, emotional abuse, and the physical abuse, I couldn't really see any kind of future for myself, which is very unfortunate.
Sad.
Because I was academically gifted. So after school, I just became exactly what my dad said I would be, which is a failure, a nothing, going nowhere. He was still beating me. He beat me until I was 23. Yeah. The last time my dad beat me, it was in the kitchen. And normally when he beat me, he'd just grab the first thing and try hit me with it. And this time it was a knife. And I screamed for my mom, and there was just blood everywhere. And she just came and she held him. She stood between us, and he was still reaching over her, trying to get me with this knife. And she said, if you ever touch her again, I will leave you. I got scouted to be a model, which was so weird because throughout high school I'd been teased for being ugly and fat and yeah. And I was smaller than I am now. So
People are mean.
Yeah,
Dude.
so that probably also perpetuated the eating disorder throughout high school. It was incapacitating compared to the depression and everything else I had. That eating the bulimia and the anorexia is what really shook me.
No one can understand how deep that goes because that's changing the way you see yourself physically.
Yeah.
And it consumes you. But I can see how you would use that to distract yourself from so much trauma.
Yeah. It was something I could actually control in my life.
Yeah.
Compared to drugs that actually make you feel good but destroy bulimia, you hate what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you can't stop
and
doing it.
And you feel sick doing it, but you can't
like
stop.
You vomit to the point where your throat feels like razor blades,
Yes.
and you're still gagging and trying to get nothing out because you haven't eaten in 3 days.
Yeah.
So that was a heavy one for me.
And being scouted must have shifted maybe your perspective, or did it make it worse?
At the time, I thought it was helping me, but with hindsight, I see that it just perpetuated the unhealthy view of myself that I had, that my body was all I had to offer, you know. So I have this they say my primary addiction is men. Male affirmation, male attention, male validation, sex, you know. So that's what got me with modeling, is posting the half naked pictures and the thousands of comments and the likes and the inbox messages, and like I thrived off of that.
So what happened with the modeling?
Okay, so I got scouted when I was 19, and between the ages of 19 and 21, it just blew up.
I saw you on the internet. I knew exactly who you were.
Yeah, I became an FHM girlfriend. I became a suicide girl. When I was 21, I was actually voted one of the top 100 most influential black alternative models in the world, which was huge for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it was still sick.
Yeah.
You know, because it started as, you know, continuing and progressive. Started with the lingerie pictures and then the nude, and then then your vagina's on Google and you can never take it off. You know, it's just one of those things. But I loved it at the time. I thrived off it. I was like, this is what I was meant to do with my life. And I made the excuse the excuses. It's positive sexual expression for females. And
it's feminism.
You know, right? But no, I was just sick. I was just very sick. And then I never could see myself as more than a sex object.
Yeah.
So to me, that was just perpetuating what those men had installed in me. This is all you're good for.
Wow.
Yeah. But I managed to start studying part-time through UNISA. My mom insisted on that. My mom was like my cheerleader. Everybody said I was going to be nothing. Everybody said nothing would come of me. My father used to say, my siblings will be successful and I'll be a street sweeper. So she was like, no, you're smart. You can do this. So she went and queued for me at UNISA, and, you know, she's like, you're going to study. And I did really well through UNISA. I was getting distinctions. And then after 2 years, I actually got accepted to Stellenbosch.
Wow.
So I could go to real university like my siblings, and maybe now Dad would love me.
Yeah.
Because that was my whole fight through life, was just for Dad to love me. To the point, actually, because my dad is very, very Christian. Like, very Christian. I became like a Jesus freak.
Oh, really?
I was in church 4 or 5 times a week. I was, you know, those people who randomly come up to you in the mall and feel like Jesus has placed it on my heart to pray.
Oh, no,
for
they
you.
come up to me all the time.
That was me. I might have met you. Like Jesus has placed it on my heart to pray for you. And
Dude, that happened to me and Mr. Price the other day.
I used to be that person. That was me, and I was still a virgin in my mind.
Yes,
I was a virgin.
okay. So then you went to Stellenbosch University, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that.
It was weird being away from home. I was so used to the strict structure and the rules and everything from back home. So it was like my first taste of actual freedom, and I think I lost it a little bit. So my mom came down with me, obviously. She stayed with me for 2 weeks. Actually transpired that I'd arrived 2 weeks early and I was going to be lonely. So she chilled with me for 2 weeks.
That's nice.
I was holding my mom's hand around campus.
Cute.
Like a noob.
Cute.
And she's like, oh, the other kids are going to laugh at you. I'm like, it's not funny to love your mom. Like, So she walked with me. She found all my classes. You know,
I did that as well. I did it with my
she made
auntie.
friends on my behalf in the apartment building where I lived.
Good.
You know, and still when she left after 2 weeks, I cried. The day she left, I just cried. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Safety blanket.
Yeah. And then I discovered wine. Box wine in Stellenbosch is hella cheap.
Bro.
Like, it's ridiculous. It's like they're asking you to become an alcoholic.
It's like Grahamstown.
So I started going to all the freshman stuff, which was basically an excuse to drink excessively.
Yeah.
Made some friends, and then sort of got into a nice rhythm. And then sort of like 2 weeks later, surprise, Mum's back. Okay.
Hey, box wine.
What's up? Yeah, see, my parents have never drank in their lives, never smoked in their lives, never touched a drug. My mom was my dad's first girlfriend. My dad was Mom's first girlfriend. They dated for 6 years and they were still virgins when they got married. Like, that kind of stuff.
So innocent.
Right. It's crazy. So, yeah, I had to lay low for a week. I was still happy my mom was there, though. Like, she came with me to all the sort of freshman stuff to support me. Yeah, she like sort of drove some confidence in me. Like, I believe in you. You can do this. You're so smart. You're so talented. Like, you deserve this to be like your siblings, you know. And then she left again. And it was sort of all downhill from there. I got into this routine of after lectures buying 2 bottles of vodka, going back to my apartment.
That was my drink of choice.
And going back to my apartment, calling a friend over, we'd drink the first bottle of vodka, clean. Then go out, drink some more. It was double vodka and Red Bull at that time. That was mine. And tequilas. Yeah, I also. And then sort of around 1, because the club's closed at 2, then I would start doing shots of straw rum, because obviously I wasn't drunk enough.
No, you have to have straw rum, dude. If you want to black out,
Yeah.
you gotta
have that straw rum. And then we just pick up random guys, take them back to my apartment, open that second bottle of vodka, and see how much of that we could get through before we just pass out, wake up, kick them out. Pour whatever was left of the second bottle of vodka into my water flask and go to lectures. And that was just my life.
Sounds about right.
It worked. I still had an 80% average. I don't know. Yeah, so it was a bit of a... And by the way, during this, taking home 3-4 random guys home every week, still a virgin.
I was actually going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So you were still keeping your distance.
Yeah.
But you also liked the...
and cuddles and then, oh, you wasted my time. Like, you're not entitled to sex just because you came to my apartment. Get the fuck out.
So you basically taking back your power in a sense.
Yeah. Can I get the fuck out of my apartment, please? Thank you. And then I met this guy who was my first sort of relationship. So abusive. I'm still scared of him to this day. Yeah, so he said he was a dom, but really he was just a guy with daddy issues who liked beating women.
Yeah.
So that went to a point where all my friends said they won't be friends with me if he keeps coming over because he's so rude to them. He'd like literally walk into my apartment, take his clothes off, get in bed, and be served for the whole time he was there. I'd have to bring him water, I'd have to cook him his dinner, anything he needed, I had to be there at his every beck and call. He didn't like my friends, so I got tied into, please don't come over when he's here.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are you letting this guy do this? He's not even that hot. So, yeah, it was heavy. Sort of 10 months into this cycle, I started hating myself because I didn't like who I became when I drank, but I couldn't not drink, and I couldn't drink without going out, and I couldn't go out without hooking up, and I couldn't hook up without hating myself, so it just became this thing.
It's a cycle.
Yeah, and then sort of in October, I decided I'm just going to kill myself because I'm tired. I'd been trying to explain to my parents that I'm struggling, but because of my academics, they were like, you're doing fine. I mean, come on. I was up for like 3 prizes that year, but I just couldn't do it. And so I actually literally stockpiled my meds because I'd been diagnosed bipolar around 18, and I stopped powder my meds for 6 months, and I went on the internet and I googled this thing called the that's 99%.
Do not look it up.
Oh,
No.
99% like successful. And so what I did was I took all my meds and I crushed them into a powder, and I mixed that powder with vodka. That's 250 pills. Mixed that powder with vodka and just sort of drank myself to death. So I downed some vodka with it, and went to sleep for what I'd hoped would be eternity. Woke up 2 weeks later on life support.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to be the 1%. I don't know why. Like I was almost there. And then anyway, so yeah, I woke up on life support and then had to go through rehabilitation because I had essentially no higher brain functioning when they found me. So I was just like,
who found you? Was it your friend?
She came down to my apartment to make tea, and she was talking to me, and she turned and she's like, you were sitting like this and your mouth was open and there was foam coming out, and she just like freaked out. Anyway, and then went into coma, came out, had to go through rehabilitation because I was in a wheelchair on a catheter. My mom was spoon feeding me like I was gone, and I had to relearn all of those skills: how to speak, how to walk, how to feed myself. And then they were like, "You're a medical miracle." I'm like, "This is a failure. I was actually trying to die." Like, awkward. And then so I went through that, and then they put me in a treatment center for depression.
Was this in Joburg?
This is still in Stellenbosch.
Okay.
And when I was there, it dawned on me that I maybe might have a bit of a drinking problem.
A little bit.
Yeah. And then about a month after that, my uncle died, and I went into some sort of weird depression.
Is this that uncle?
Yeah. I went into depression because maybe I didn't have closure. It was never spoken about. It was just.
Did you ever confront him about it?
Yeah. No. Running was my thing. And I said, I want to move to Cape Town. And my parents said, no, you're not. And I'm like, I'm moving to Cape Town. You won't pay for another degree for me. You want me to just sit here and do what? Like, just be that kid who stays with their parents until they, And at some point, I remember my mom saying, I'm her burden. And I was just like, fuck that. I'm moving to Cape Town. So one night when they were asleep, I climbed out the window and they didn't see me for 5 years. So I moved to Cape Town with my best friend at the time. She'd also stayed with her parents her whole life, and we're like, we just need change. And then when I got to Cape Town, I had this amazing idea of how to make a lot of money, and I was like, I'm gonna go be a stripper.
Obviously,
as one does. So I went to work at a well-known club in Cape Town.
I know.
Yeah. But obviously at that time I was sober. So
you had yes.
I stayed sober for about 5 months, and it was impossible because I'm so shy. Like sitting there in my underwear, like
hey,
couldn't approach clients, couldn't do anything, and that was frustrating. Obviously, we needed the funds, and so I managed to convince her that if I just had 1 or 2 drinks at work, just to
loosen up,
I'd be fine. And it wasn't long before this new life started looking a lot like the old one: excessive drinking, bringing home random guys, the revolving door of my house. I remember one point even hearing the neighbors refer to our apartment as a brothel, which we thought was very hilarious because she'd gotten into the habit of coming to work with me, and sort of like telling clients like, yeah, that's my girlfriend, you should book her, she's so hot, and then she would also just take home guys on the side.
Yeah.
So I was stripping, she was private escorting. There was a guy that she'd met at the club who she used to sleep with, and he'd buy us groceries. So we called it stripping for rent and fucking for groceries. It was great.
So your
until it wasn't.
Friend, your housemate, asked you to stop stripping, and you decided, okay, fine, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. To save the friendship.
Yeah.
And then I got scouted again in Cape Town, and I got signed to a new agency, which was really, it was a breath of fresh air. But I found that within a few weeks, I missed the pole. That's what I called it at that time. But I was just missing, obviously, the drinking and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So she was like, okay, since you're going to speak about this so much, just go back, but please just drink in moderation, which is obviously not something that I was able to do. So I'd learned from working at that men don't come to strip clubs to see things that they used to. And I saw how much money the European girls were making. So I was like, maybe I should try a British accent. So I like toyed with this idea. And then I started working at another lesser known club in Cape Town. And when I was at work, I just sort of tried on the accent. And it worked. It distanced me from the rest of the black girls, so to say, because there's many. And I saw the Bulgarians and that making money, and that's how I got in with the Bulgarians, which is where you want to be.
Yeah.
The Bulgarians and the Russians. And they allowed me into their crew because obviously I wasn't black, I was European. So that was cool for me. Somewhere in this, I linked up again with my abusive ex from Stellenbosch. And my housemate didn't like him straight away, obviously, because of the way he controlled sort of every aspect of my life. And I was terrified of him. But I started, that was what I knew love as being. Obviously from my father and the abuse, that men hurt you when they love you. And if you love them, you allow them to do this. It's your fault. If you didn't do the things you do, like you'd just be happy. So that went on for a few months. I remember one night he beat me so badly I could hear her crying in her room. And she was like, this needs to stop. And I was like, no, it doesn't. You don't understand. He loves me. Eventually that became the reason she kicked me out. I chose him. The drinking was extremely excessive at this point. I don't even think I was trying to stop it. And I ended up moving into a backpackers, which was like...
That's when it starts.
Yeah.
That's always when it starts.
It's my first rock bottom.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it as that. I then had started pawning my things for drinking money, but I said money to pay the backpackers. I then went into waitressing, which was my saving grace. While I was at this backpackers, my mom got all these red flags, and my mom flew down to save me, which was my mom's pattern. She brought me home for a few days, got me in hospital, had to drip for nutrients because I was a vegetarian who didn't eat right ever.
And that's also the eating disorder.
Yes, controlling. Yeah. So I was vegetarian, and so I stayed in this backpackers until I got this job as a waitress on Long Street. Now my thing on Long Street was living on Long Street is the worst thing for an alcoholic because I just drank every day.
Yeah,
that's just what I did. I just drank. I got into agencies and worked at restaurants, but would get fired from both because of my drinking, and then would just have to move and start over. So that's how that cycle began. Somewhere in the midst of this, I started landing big adverts like Nivea, Liquid Fruit, big adverts, good money, and was then able to move into an apartment with another girl that I'd known. She knew about my drinking problem. She hated it. She's like, please stop drinking. You don't know how ugly you become when you're drunk. Like, I was the only one who had fun when I was drunk.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'd be like, but it was so much fun last night. And she'd be like, I spent the night carrying you around. Like,
you yelled at me the entire night.
Dude, you puked next to the toilet. Like, really? And then I got into this pin-up pageant, which was like a massive thing for me.
I know what you're talking.
Yeah. It signified a massive change in my behavior, the way I carried myself. I started looking like a lady and rolling my hair every day. And we were on like News 24 and Espresso and on the radio and in newspapers. And my mom was like, that's my goal. Like, you're being a lady now. You're doing classy photo shoots. You're like doing good. But then the drinking. Because now I'd made it and I wanted to celebrate. So got fired from my agency because I started showing up late on set, missing casting calls, being hungover or drunk, or they were just like, we've had too many complaints from clients, we can't represent you anymore.
That's, I think, just something I want to touch on is the consequences of addiction. Is I got a role on Jacob's Cross and I never went back to filming because I wanted meth, and I like shut down production for, I think it was a day. But someone else who was in the production also had a problem, so it worked out. But I ruined my acting career because of that. And it's amazing how we don't even see that then. We're like, oh, it's fine. Yeah. I just ruined my life, but it's fine.
I was like, I'm a free spirit anyway. I like starting over, but I didn't see that starting over wasn't a choice for me. It was, your roommate doesn't want to live with you. Your agency's done with you. This restaurant is sick of you, like getting drunk on shift. You've lost everything. You're not starting over. You're running away.
Yeah.
But I was starting over, so I moved in with the new roommates. Ended up in a backpackers at some point. I got kicked out of a backpackers, guys.
Well, fucking
banned from a backpackers.
Who does that?
That's a real thing. I'm banned from a backpackers.
Good job.
Yeah, because the people
yes.
were complaining about. Anyway, so mom to the rescue. Mom comes back, finds me a new apartment, new job, new agency. Cool, everything's great. So I started working at a new restaurant with a new agency and a new housemate, and wow, this is so amazing. Never mind the amount of collateral damage I've caused in my last 2 years here, of the people who will never speak to me again, the restaurants that never want to see my face, and the agencies that want nothing to do with me. So I work at this new restaurant, and that's where I met my ex, who's the most substantial relationship I've had in my life. We met in a bar on Long Street, so don't ever let your mom tell you you'll never meet a good man in a bar. It was my friend's 30th. I was super drunk. He was super drunk, but we sat at the bar.
So you met a nice guy for a change.
For once. First and last one.
Yeah. Hey, have you met Rana?
He's okay.
He's okay.
He's okay, that guy.
So yeah, we met in this bar on Long Street, and we got separated, and I couldn't stop thinking about him because it was just something, I guess. And my friend whose 30th I was at was just like, why don't you just go back to him? It was this whole romantic thing, like, just go back, go find him, he's so beautiful.
At the airport.
Oh, right. I did eventually, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I messaged him, and he'd also been thinking about me, and we met up at one of the Indian restaurants on Long Street and bought some Indian and went back to his place, and he wouldn't touch me because I was so drunk. He put me in a shower and put me in a pair of his boxes and a pair of shirts. He's like, please sleep.
And that's a first for you.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was worth if I wasn't, and then we woke up in the morning and chatted, and then realized we both had food poisoning.
Oh, nice. Romantic.
So, yeah, we romantically got to spend the rest of the weekend hugging a toilet bowl together. And we just get to know each other as people, just bond on a deeper level. And I never left. So that was just our story. I took a sick day on the Monday, spent the day with him. The Tuesday I went into work, and he messaged me. He's like, can you come back after your shift? And then the Wednesday, can you come back? And then, we basically just lived together. He made me the best version of myself I'd been to that point. I stopped drinking. I was housewifey, cooking his dinner every night, and we'd just sit and talk and not have sex, which was insane for me. That had never happened. We connected on a level that was deeper than that. So it's difficult to be like, were we a couple, weren't we a couple? Because we basically lived together and cuddled every night. He wasn't my type, I wasn't his type sexually. Which is weird, but like on a spiritual level, we just bonded, and
that's what you needed.
Yeah, I needed a man who saw more than just my body. And so I stopped drinking. There would be weekend, like every second weekend maybe, would be like, hey, we're gonna out, and that's when my drinking promiscuity would kick in for like a weekend, and then I'd be like, oh, why? But then I'd be back at his place Monday and just feel better, more centered. I kept a job, I kept an agency, which is crazy. I started working on myself. I wanted to be a better person. And then I think after 6 months, his visa expired, which was heartbreaking. He came to my apartment and he was just crying, and he's like, I have to go. Let's go back to Germany. And we just cried, just held each other and cried. And when he left, it was like that 6 months had never happened. I was straight full on into drinking. I didn't mention, at some point just after we met, I went into severe depression. Mommy had to come fly superhero, put me in treatment for a month, change my meds, sort of try to fix what was broken, which they couldn't figure out. At some point, they threatened to have me sectioned because I wasn't responding to medication. So I just pretended like I was getting better so I could leave. And then when he left again, it was just 2 bottles of red wine and a tab of sleeping pills before bed every night. Sleeping pills was my worst addiction, I think. For me, it's the most dangerous because you do things and you don't remember doing them. Like I'd take my pills, wake up with like a whole empty tab next to me, and my shoes and McDonald's. I changed out of my pajamas, went out, came home, and don't remember.
That is so scary. It's the same with alcohol. Those blackouts. Oh, horrifying.
Yeah. So that was. I turned back into the person I hated, which was difficult. And after 2 weeks, he sent me a plane ticket to Thailand and said, "Let's start over." And I was like, "I'm so good at starting over. Please, yes, I can do this." So I moved to Thailand. Just moved to Thailand with this guy I'd known for 6 months. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. He really is a good man. He tried to put up with my shit for so long. And then the drinking. The drinking took me down after 3 months. And we wanted to continue traveling the world because I was camming at that stage.
And that means being a cam girl.
Yeah. And I was like, I have this amazing idea. I'm going to go back to South Africa and strip for like 3 weeks and make a lot of money. And then
we can travel.
Right? He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, like 3 weeks max. 3 years. So after my experience at the clubs in Cape Town, I realized that European girls just make more money. So on that 19-hour plane ride, I watched 9 seasons of Geordie Shore. So I left as Bo, and I landed as Amelia. So for 3 years, I faked this amazing British accent, right, made a lot of money. I had a story where I was from Manchester, so I was sort of half South African, half English. Like my dad were English and my mum South African, or something like that. This time stripping was a lot more successful. I don't necessarily think I'd gotten better. I think I'd just gotten the confidence from the persona, from really being someone else. So I did really well. I was making good money at this club in Rivonia. And I think I got a bit cocky to the point where I was like, I don't need this club needs me. And I heard about girls making more money at a club down the road, and I was like, well, I'm going to go try there. And they asked for I gave 2 weeks notice. Strippers don't give notice; they just leave.
Yeah.
So I had them begging me every day, please rethink this decision. If you find a club where you make money, you've found your niche, you need to. I'm like, no, if I can make this here, what could I make there? So I left, went to this other club, only to find that club offered extras, and I don't do extras. I remember.
Can I ask what happened to the 3-week plan?
Oh, okay.
3 weeks became 3 years.
The thing is, the money's addictive. The money's very addictive. And after 3 weeks, I was like, oh, but I could make more. And I had my boyfriend at the time very, what happened to the plan? What's going on? But I was always drunk when he called me. He felt like he didn't know me anymore. I wasn't interested in him. All I could talk about was work in this stupid accent. And he's like, can you please be real with me? And I'm like, this is my new normal. This is what it is now. So continued working at that club, then moved to other club where they did extras, and I refused to do extras. I remember the owner once telling me that I think I have a golden vagina. Which I did, obviously. I continued to not offer extras. Made the mistake of falling in love with a client. You should never, ever do that. It was never going to be real because I wasn't even a real person. But I think that loneliness just got to me. And so I moved in with him for a month. Didn't really work out. There's a point where I thought I was pregnant. And that's when you really get to know a guy, because that's when the running shoes come on and they bolt. So then I ended up moving to Pretoria, and that was where prostitution became my main source of income for the first time, which I'd never intended. That was sort of a very dark time for me. There is not enough alcohol to drown out that level of nausea, because in Pretoria my main clientele was obviously old Afrikaans men, old, Anyway, bile. So it was while I was at that club that someone told me about another club in Germiston. And she was like, "You'll make so much money with that accent there. Like, you're wasting your time here. You should go there and just flourish." And I was just sold these dreams. When I became a stripper with my level of alcoholism, the real money only comes in around 2 a.m. And by then I'm too fucked to work. So they would take me to the bathroom and just give me a line so I could wake up. And I enjoyed it. There was this magical thing that could help me drink more. Like, wow.
And you stay a bit sober.
Yeah, which that's
Sober
the
from
frustrating
alcohol.
part. That you drink and can't get drunk. But yeah, so I moved to this new club. And it was it enchanted me from the second I walked in, because the brothels I'd been working in Pretoria were sort of dingy, like CD bars. This was like, the blinding lights, the flashing signs, the lit pathway to the door. It was like, yes, this is a real club. And I went there with two of my friends from Pretoria. And I remember the manager giving us a tour and getting outside, and she's like, "Okay, so we charge 1.6 for bookings, for an hour of booking." And I mean, coming from the club I was at, where I was having sex for basically nothing, I was like, wow. I'm like, "But is it okay if I charge 2,000? And she's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because I don't even need to see the rest of the girls to know that I'm better than them." And she was like, "I like you." So yeah, and then she took me to the bathrooms, and the girls were still getting ready, with all the steam from the showers. Only to walk in and realize there was no showers on. It was just 20 girls smoking lolly at once,
Oh, good God.
creating this massive cloud. And I remember my two friends being like, "We can't do this." I'm like, "We're strong, we have each other. Just because they're doing it doesn't mean we have to." And when you look at comparison of what the girls who were on Crystal looked like, it was easy money.
Yeah.
Easy money for a girl who looked at least normal. And I made a killing. That was the most I'd ever made. I think my second week I made 120,000. And I was like, "I'm staying. I'm just gonna stay here." Drug free, obviously. The one friend unfortunately did succumb to the crystal, and after about a month had a stroke, which paralyzed half her body, and so she left the club. I moved in with the guy who wrote our bookings. I'll call him our pimp, because I have a terrible fear of the dark, and he never turned the lights off in his apartment. So I crashed on his couch with my friend, and then he and his girlfriend would sleep on the bed in the other room. He became like my best friend. Like, I dug that guy. He was quirky and funny, and but like a brother to me, because he took care of me on weekends. He made sure that I ate. He was just there for me. And he loved me because I made him so much money. Obviously, he was getting commission. Then he started dating a girl, and her and I became best friends, because eventually my second friend left and said she couldn't handle the drugs. And so me and her were essentially the last two girls left in the club that weren't on drugs. The girls were on drugs, the managers were on drugs, the bartenders were on drugs, the waitresses were on drugs. Like, everyone was taking crystal. So we were like, we're going to help each other stay strong. The guy was sort of the dealer for the girls. At the beginning of the shift, I remember a girl walking around taking orders, and I was like, "Can I have a pizza?" She's like, "No, not those kinds of orders, girls. Like, what do you need?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I don't do drugs." She's like, "You don't do drugs yet." And so that became a thing. I continued to make a shitload of money. I think I was actually the first black top earner in the club's history. I was killing it. Oh, you don't even understand. Love money. I can't remember when I did my first line of crystal, but I remember on my birthday, this really racist Afrikaans guy who wouldn't book me, but wanted me to have a great birthday. So he was booking stupid things, like he booked me for 2,000 rand an hour just to dance on the pole, or pay me 1.5 just for a strip pool. And I made 12 grand off of him, and he's like, "I just want you to have a good birthday because you're such a nice girl." I'm like, "Dude, hello." And the girls there still. Oh God, the girls there still.
Well, when you're on meth.
Fuck. Yes, they still you fucked up. And I remember they would break into my locker and steal all my makeup and my clothes and my phones. I remember having my first phone stolen and me being like, this is not gonna get me down. You steal my Galaxy, I'll go out and buy an iPhone, bitch. Like, you steal my makeup, I'll go buy makeup 10 times as expensive as that, because I don't give a shit. Like, I was that level of arrogant. I used to refer to people as peasants. It sounds better in a British accent though. Peasants.
Fucking peasants.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then on my birthday, my beautiful best friend, guy friend, gave me the blessed gift of drug addiction, and that was the first time I smoked crystal. I wouldn't say I was hooked right away. It took me 3 days to come down, which I hated. I remember him trying to tell me that tequila will bring you down. So I drank so much tequila that I went on stage and I grabbed the wrong pole. Fell off into a guy's lap who booked me for 4 hours because I was still that slick. I was like a damsel that just fell into his arms. And they're like, do you know how much shit you'd get into with the boss if you weren't making so much money? Like, it was insane. There was this one guy, I'll never forget. He spent like 30 grand on me in one day. And it was just so beautiful. Like, that club was just me. Like, it was just me. Like, everyone would be sitting at the bar, not having work, and I'd be running up and down between the booking rooms, being like, oh, you guys still sitting here? That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. No money. Yeah, no money. Ooh, that's rough. How are you going to buy drugs? So I worked there, started smoking crystal on my birthday with my housemate. Didn't want him to tell his girlfriend, obviously, because we'd made a pact to never use crystal. And then she started. And at some point got it into her head that I was having something with him behind her back. Yeah. And I'm like, are you literally insane? He's like my brother. Like, no. Also, everyone's like, he doesn't do black, so please, like, no. And she went away for Christmas, and our last night was on Christmas Eve night. That club, you only get 3 days off a year. 4. It's Easter, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. We work 16-hour shifts, 6 days a week for the rest of the year. It was a complaint that I did raise with the managers, and she was like, all the other girls do it. I'm like, all the other girls are on drugs. I'm an alcoholic. I need to sleep. Like, can't be up here at 12. And there was a week where I did back-to-back bookouts, overnights. So I do an overnight, which ends at 10 in the morning. I'm walking out into the club at 10 in the morning. At 11, I'm getting ready for the shift that starts at 12. So after you start schnapping. So I started schnapping my cats. Now I started smoking the crystal, only with him. To the point where I was like to him, I'm going to stop hanging out with you if I have to do drugs every time, because like I'm not into drugs. But that's his actual function at the club, is to get the girls hooked on crystal, which is weird. So on New Year's Eve we closed for the year. Cool. I'd made targets. It was so exciting. And because she'd gone away for Christmas, him and I started hanging out again. We were watching Ghostbusters, and we were watching Ghostbusters and smoking crystal and drinking. And he was like, you need to come down, and I have something that'll help you come down. And I was like, I'm like, it better not. He's like, no, it'll help you come down and sleep. And next thing I knew, his penis was inside me. Odd. Because I had another.
I really thought you were going to say heroin.
Roofies. Liquid G. Yeah. And I didn't know what it was at all. Because he'd introduced me to all the drugs I knew. So, yeah, I woke up like, what the fuck? What the fuck happened? I would never do this, but I've done this. But I would never do this. I'm not even attracted to you. What the fuck is happening? He's like, just calm down. I'm like, I'm calling her right now, my best friend. I'm calling her and I'm telling her, it's like, you don't need to do this. I'm like, and then I'm calling my boyfriend. I'm telling him, because this is fucked up. You understand what we did was fucked up. He's like, calm down. If you don't tell anyone, but that was not me. Mm-hmm. So I phone my best friend. I tell her, I phone my boyfriend. I tell him, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know how this happened. I promise you, I would never do this. I had no intention of doing this. I don't know how this happened. And obviously nobody believed me. And the next day I packed my bags and I moved back to Pretoria. And obviously I had the owner and the manager, and, oh, please, Amelia, please come back. Like, it won't be like it was. Like, we promise, no. And then for some reason I started missing him. This person that I'd never been attracted to.
Because of the drugs.
I started missing. I didn't realize it was because he was giving me the drugs. I was like, maybe I'm in love with him.
Yeah.
Like, if I would cheat, like if I'd sleep with my best friend's boyfriend, and I had this boyfriend that I thought I loved, but I slept with him, so obviously I'm in love with him. Like, this is what rape is now. Rape is love, apparently. So I fell in love with him, and I went back. And for the next 6 months, every time we had sex, he would give me that stuff that helps me sleep. And then we'd have sex. And then I started asking, like, that stuff really, like, it works well to help me sleep. Like, can I buy some for myself so that I can sleep when I'm not with you? And so I asked the one dealer, and the dealer said, don't ever talk about that shit in my car. And I was like, that's weird. You're a drug dealer. this is a drug. And then I said, give me the name of your dealer who gives you the stuff. So I messaged this guy, and he's like, what do you need it for? I'm like, to help me sleep. He's like, who are you using it on? I'm like, myself. Like, what? And he sent me an article that described what this drug is after 6 months of being drugged and raped. I couldn't explain it to anyone now, because now I was in love with him. You can't cry rape after 6 months. So, yeah, I just gave him another 2 years of my life, being in love with him, having him be ashamed of me, hiding the fact that we're sleeping together.
Because you're black.
Yeah. So it was always get dressed, get out after sex. It was always lying about where I'd spent the night. It was like lying to his girlfriends. For the first time, having no friends in the club because of all his girlfriends fighting me for lying about sleeping with him denying it, obviously, me being caught in his room, getting fucked up, solidly fucked up. That's the club where I learned how to fight. Like, I once broke a glass and got a girl in the neck with it, which is not me. I'm really a non-violent person.
It's really impressive. Yeah.
So yes, he took my life, and I gave him my life.
Yeah.
Because at that point, what was anything worth anymore? I don't think I ever saw him sober or he saw me sober. It was always either crystal, G, cat, cocaine, poppers, something. We're always on something. We lived together for a little bit, and I was like, hey, this is because I'd planned to be there for a year. And I looked at one day, I'm like, I can do another year. He's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I love you. Like, have my life. And one day in October of 2016, my brother showed up. My brother just showed up at my club. And I had no shoes at that point. I was wearing like secondhand tattered pants. It was like a Sunday. I looked like shit. I'd stopped making money. I'd blown through my savings that I'd made from when I wasn't using the drugs. The boss was threatening to beat me if I didn't start making money. I was now not that sexy, confident girl going to clients. I was now, please book me. I need the money. My boss is going to hit me. Please. And I turned into exactly the girls I looked down on when I first came to the club. And so when I saw my brother, I just ran down the driveway and I jumped on him. And I just started sobbing. And he's like, you need to come home. And I was like, this is my home. This is my family. I'm not going anywhere. He entertained it for the day. I took him gambling, which was another one of my addictions. Obviously, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Okay, so your brother found you at the club. Yeah.
They'd been looking for me for a while. So after asking people by my name, they realized,
She bitch changed her name.
yeah, so he just went and showed people my picture, and they were like, oh my god, we know her. She's at the house, we're gonna go get her. And then I ran and jumped on him, spent the day with him. And he was like, you need to come home. And I'm like, this is my home. This is my family. I'm not going anywhere. And then he's like, okay, but I need to talk to you about something serious. And now there's an image I had of myself when I went home. I would be super successful.
Yes.
I'd have the apartment, the car, and be like, look, Dad, I did it. The idea wasn't me penniless with no shoes, looking like a hobo with a drug addiction. But then I forget my brother, that one sentence. Mom has cancer. And I felt like the whole world stopped because my mother was my life. And so I just started sobbing, and I tried to pack all my shit, but I was in such a state. I smoked all my drugs, obviously. And then I got in a car, and he took me to my aunt's house. It was difficult for me because I was withdrawing, which means I could barely keep my eyes open. But I'd wake up every day and go to the hospital for like an hour or two. I remember the first time my mom saw me, she looked skinnier than me. She looks horrible. And I went and I just threw myself on her and I started sobbing. And I was like, why didn't you tell me you were sick? And she was like, who is this? Who is this? And then like she sort of turned and looked at me. And then she just sobbed for 10 minutes. Unfortunately, she died 10 days later. So sorry, it's okay. But I'm happy that I got to spend that time with her. And I had my hand on her chest when she passed away, and I felt her last heartbeat, and it felt like the circle of life where she felt my first heartbeat and I felt her last. And after that, I just went into free fall. I went straight back to the club and I just smoked myself silly. My boyfriend didn't know how to deal with me when I was this broken. Like, I would just lie in bed and cry, and he'd sort of like, caress me and make me tea and play movies for me and give me hugs and sex to try and make it go away. And ironically, she died 2 days before my birthday. So then I just sat there in this, like, do I celebrate my birthday now, or do I mourn like my mom just died? And a week later, my brother came and got me again and was like, don't you want to come to mom's funeral? I was like, yeah, okay. And then I left, and I managed to stay home for about 3 weeks. They started making plans, like, get your life together, go to rehab. I'm like, I'm not going to rehab, I don't have a problem.
Of course.
I can stop when I want. Like, clearly, I've been here for 3 weeks, I haven't used. I just miss my boyfriend, so if I could just go spend an evening with my boyfriend. So I went back. They were like, okay, we're done, just go. And I left again. Around Christmas, I called my dad. I'm like, can I come spend Christmas with the family? And he was like, that would be beautiful. So they Ubered me there. I don't even remember that Christmas. Yeah, I was so sick. I couldn't even smoke drugs. And I didn't know how sick you have to be to not. When you have them and you're like, oh, I'm too sick. Jesus. Like, yeah, so they Ubered me there. And then they booked me into a hotel for that evening. Because they didn't really trust me in the house, I guess.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Still had that weird accent, and everyone was like, where does this come from? Like, who is this person? Like, what's going on? You've never been to England. And then the next day, I was like, instead of putting me in a hotel, let me just go back home and then come back tomorrow. And I came back high as booze. And I remember my dad standing at the door being like, I love you so much. You will always be my child. You will always be welcome here. But first, you need to go to rehab. I don't want you in my house until I've gone to rehab. So I sort of made it my New Year's resolution to go to rehab, and then didn't. Just, spiraled. I remember at one point a new girl saying to me, the other girls say you're going to die here. I'm like, yeah, that's why I came back. After my mom died. Too much of a coward to do it myself. And life just sort of became, at some point the drugs stopped working. And I remember there was a day where I had a dream about my mom. Now, when I was a child, I used to lie on my mom's chest to feel comfort. Like listening to her heartbeat, and in my dream I was lying on her chest and I could just hear her breathing, and I was like, why can't I hear your heartbeat? And she's like, because I'm dead. And that shook me, that dream. I woke up and I was just like, oh my god, I had no drugs, I had no food, I had nothing. So I went into the club early. My best friend at the club, her name was Yvonne, I guess I can mention her. She hustled money for us. She bought me drugs, she bought me food. By 5 o'clock, I'd been through half a bottle of gin and like 4 bags, and I'd eaten, but I was still miserable as fuck. I couldn't stop crying. They were like, please get off the floor, you're making the customers uncomfortable. So I went into the change room, and it was about time for night shift, and the boss was like, all you girls better get on the floor. And I was sitting in this bathroom cubicle with this lolly crying because I couldn't get drunk enough or high enough to make the pain go away. And just that realization of, if I want to eat tomorrow, I have to go out there and fuck a stranger tonight. And I couldn't do it anymore. Another girl was fighting with me, my boyfriend's new girlfriend. Stop sleeping with him, no. And I'm like, oh my god, I've been doing this for 2 years now.
It's enough.
Like, it's enough. And that was just, the sad thing about that day is it wasn't this paralyzing, like, this is rock bottom. That day was exactly the same as the 2 years of days preceding it. But that was just the day I had enough.
I get that so much. It's not like a massive spiritual awakening. It's just like, I'm fucking done.
And like, there's a warm bed and food at my dad's house. Like, I remember about to pawn my phone to the dealer, having no food, no drugs, nothing, and getting a message on the family group, Dad just bought a Jaguar. And I'm like, is this my life? What am I actually doing? And even that wasn't enough. I still stayed there for another year. But I remember that moment of being like half an hour away.
Yeah.
A house, a bed, money. If you, like, why are you begging car guards for 10 rand of change to buy a loaf of bread when your dad lives in a mansion? What are you doing? And that day I just sat in the corner of the club and I just cried. I had like a jersey on. We weren't allowed to wear clothes on the floor. I was just like, I'm not approaching clients tonight. I'm not doing this. And at the end of the night, his new girlfriend wanted to stab me because she just found out we were sleeping together. What? Like, I've been sleeping with him before. Like, who even are you? And him lying to me about it as usual. And I just, after the shift, when I'm running away from the school with a knife, he wants to stab me, and like I have $100, so I know at least I can buy half a bag and food for tomorrow. But no, because I gambled that money out. I have nothing, and I just remember standing at the doorway of Yvonne's room and him screaming at me, and I'm like, what are you so afraid of? So what if they found out that we're sleeping together? So what? They know. Everybody knows. The boss sees me coming out of your room every morning, and I'm like, hi, like, what is this? And because he'd also beat me, obviously. He once like lifted me by the throat, threw me across the change room. Like, he was that boyfriend, obviously. It's exactly like the rest. And he's like, I'm going to hurt you. And I just looked at him like, you already have. And he just walked away, and I turned to Vaughn. I'm like, we're leaving. And we told everyone we're going up to the shop to buy some food, and got there and asked someone to order us an Uber. And we never went back. And by the grace of God, we had the same clean date.
Oh my
which
God.
is amazing. Yeah, which is really amazing. So I came home. My aunt wouldn't open the gate for me. We sat on her lawn for 6 hours. They just bought us a bottle of water. Went to my dad's house. The maid wouldn't open for me because she'd been instructed not to.
Which is good.
Yeah. Nobody wanted me. And I remember Yvonne saying to me that day, one day nobody will open the gate. Because again, my brother, saving grace, arrived home. He took us to a restaurant. He said, order everything you want. And I just heard him arguing with my dad. He's like, yes, because we fetched her. This time she's come home. She's asking for help. We are not turning her away. It's never an inconvenient time. She wants help. And so they booked me and Yvonne into a hotel room where we detoxed together for 3 days. It was the worst 3 days of my life.
At least you slept.
Yeah. And sweated and pained and aches and yeah. We just got all of that out. And then we gave her money to get an Uber and go home. And for 7 months, I didn't know whether she'd gone home or not, which was hectic.
Yeah, it's devastating.
Yeah, but then I went into hospital for a week where I was tested for AIDS every morning and evening because they didn't believe me. Like, you're too skinny. Are you sure? I'm like that. Like, I know I'm clean. I'm a druggie. But it's not AIDS. It's just crystal. And then went into rehab. For the first 2 weeks, I was in complete denial about being an addict. I was like, I did this by choice.
Yeah.
I just came here because I just need a break. Like 6 hours, 6 days a week, like it's heavy, but my body just needs a break. I need a holiday, and then I can go back with like new energy and new vigor, and and I remember my first meeting was the first time I just sat there and I was like, I'm an addict.
This is an NA meeting.
Yeah, my first NA meeting. I was like, God, I'm an addict. Oh, how did this happen? I studied clinical psychology and social work. I know what drugs do to people, which was my excuse of why I could never be an addict. I'd never be that stupid. But there I was, and then slowly over time with working step 1, the insanity comes unlocked of all the points where you said, no, but I'll never do this, and then you do it, and it's, oh, but I'll never do that. I was selling my clothes for drugs. I was selling my body for drugs. I mean, let's start there. Like, I had nothing left but to sell and hustle and just that life of constant stress of where are we going to get the next bag? Who are we going to hustle? Who are we going to exchange with? What are we going to sell? I was tired, and I was ashamed that I hadn't seen that in myself. I was ashamed that my brain could trick me into not seeing the reality, because up until I was 2 months clean, I still believed that I could go back to stripping.
Of course.
Because that's the only thing I'm good at. It's the only thing I know. I can go back and just be clean. And then the weight started coming, and I was like, oh, this body gonna make so much money. Like, I'm looking good. And then then this sort of existential crisis of, so what now?
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, I made this decision already. Like I made this decision 10 years ago. Like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Now you're asking me to make it again, and I don't know. I'm 27 and I have nothing to show for my life. Absolutely nothing. And I obviously had problems with boys at the rehab because men were still my drug of choice, and just getting to a point where I was like, I actually need to get to the bottom of my issues with men. This man thing is going to bother me to the point where it will make me relapse if I'm not willing to face this. So I went in and I was like, who does regression therapy? And I did regression therapy. And over the period of 2 weeks, this story slowly came out. And I was, I have psychogenic symptoms from my trauma. So even though I'm on antidepressants and anti-seizure medication and everything, it does not prevent me from getting depression or seizures. So what will happen is I'd go for the regression in the morning and dig this stuff up, and my brain would try to fight it back by making me have seizures and blackouts and panic attacks. And it got to a point where the people in the hospital with me were like, think you need to stop this regression therapy. These seizures are not healthy. I'm like, these seizures are my mind's way of showing me I'm hitting the right nerve. And I forced and I kept going, and every day. And that was where I finally was able to forgive myself, because my life finally made sense.
You know how you got to each of those points.
Yes.
Yeah.
My life finally, everything clicked in. And I would call that my spiritual awakening, because when I was younger, I had the nickname Tubbs, then I was Jenny, then I was Jekyll, then I was Jamie, then I was Amelia. And for the first time last year, I was like, I'm Mmathabo. Like, I ended up from that place of hating myself and what's wrong with you to, I'm so proud of you.
You're empowered.
Yeah, I'm so. Recovery hasn't been easy.
Mm-hmm.
I have managed to, just because I know the cause doesn't mean the symptoms don't still affect me. So I still have to call myself out on men and validation and all of that. I've seen a lot of relapse during my time in recovery.
It's difficult being in those rooms.
It is. And for me, my freedom came from knowing the truth, but it's not something special that, I think it just came from willingness. If people are just willing to go where it hurts, that's where you'll find your freedom. Just if you don't deal with the underlying issues, the addiction is a symptom, it's not a disease. Well, it is a disease, but it's the cause is trauma.
So in recovery, you have these massive life realizations, and you start to gain this huge perspective over everything and why you got to this point in your life and how you got to this point in your life. So in terms of recovery, what would you say are your greatest gifts? What have you learned in recovery? And can you tell anyone watching who has been through something similar and who is dealing with such deep-seated trauma, how it is possible to find your peace, if you have that or part of that?
Yeah, for me, the biggest gift recovery gave me was to stop playing the victim.
Yes! Sorry.
Because a victim can never heal. Learning to take personal responsibility for all my actions has for me been the most liberating sort of freedom, and realizing what was me and what was things that were projected onto me. Because for me, as bad as the first 14 years of my life were, what people did to me, what I've done to myself in the last 14 years has been much worse. Because my uncle never put me in the brothel, I did. They didn't give me the drugs, I did. Those were my choices and my decisions, and I'm not a child anymore. I don't get to blame other people for my problems. And so realizing that all I've done in the last 14 years of my life is prove them right for what they did in the first 14 years, of that I'm a sex object, that this is all I'll ever be good for, that I'm literally nothing more than my body. I've proved them right. And that gave me the power to choose something different. To say I'm not a sex object, I'm not what those men made me out to be. And I get to choose how to treat myself, how to present myself, and my own self, like my self-esteem, my self-worth is up to me. And that's been liberating. To now realize that I have so much more to offer than what I saw back then, and to forgive myself knowing that I was sick, that most of the decisions I made were made from the place of being a victim. And I'm not a victim anymore, I'm a survivor. That's been, you are not your trauma. Your trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. And I've taken responsibility for my healing, and I've chosen to forgive them, not for them, but for me, because they were not affected by the things that I've done. They carried on with their lives.
Yeah.
It was me that sat in that space, and chose to punish myself and self-pity myself into self-destruction, which was horrible, but I learned so many lessons through that. And so recovery has given me that freedom of now I choose who I want to be. It's also given me my family back.
It's the best.
As much as I did lose my mom, I didn't lose her in vain, because that was a wake-up call to me that it's time for massive change. I have a relationship with my dad now, which I never ever thought was possible. He finally understands me. He understands why I turned out the way I did, and he understands that the way he thought of me before was wrong. And my brothers, who I love infinitely. An amazing thing actually is my brothers came to every meeting with me throughout my recovery. And then at some point at 7 months, my older brother stopped being support and became an addict, and realized that he has a problem, and he's now in rehab, which is sort of bittersweet. But it's like,
but he's asked for help.
When you recover, the people around you recover with you. It's like we recover together or not at all. And yeah, and so about 4 months ago, 2 of my guy friends started a business helping rehabilitate addicts. Unfortunately, they both relapsed, and I decided to continue that company because I believe in it so much. So I detox and rehabilitate and find addicts jobs, and it's the most fulfilling thing for me because NA saved my life. I would never have thought that the life I have now is possible, and I would like to pay that forward by giving that same gift to other people who are in that place of hopelessness, of being like, I've been where you are and there is a way out, there is light on the other side. I really love NA. Like, it's ridiculous. I fall in love with my recovery again every day, just by holding on to, because the further you get from active, the easier it is to forget exactly how bad it was. And so thankfully I have my step 1, and I go and I read, and I'm like, I cannot do that to myself or to my family or to people who care about me again.
I feel like that's the greatest part of NA. Like, a lot of people don't like NA, they don't like the way it works, and that's totally fine. For some people it doesn't work. For me, what I love about NA is, yes, you move forward from being an addict, but you don't forget, because you can't forget. Once you forget and you say, it's fine, I'm not an addict anymore, you forget the stuff you went through, and that's how you can easily go back.
Yeah.
And it is always good to look back at your step work. That's something I need to do, actually. I haven't done that in a while.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
It's hectic. Like, my best friend relapsed. And I mean, I've had so many people relapse over the course of my recovery that at some point I learned to just cut them off, carry the message, and not the addict. But when he relapsed, it's like I was inactive as well. I refused. Everyone's like, just let him have his relapse, and I was like, no way. And I spent a week with him of his relapse, watching him snuff cocaine and drink and quote.
Were you actually around it?
I was in the hotel room with him.
Oh,
yeah.
Good God.
Yeah, of course I was.
That's putting yourself in some serious danger.
I know.
Do not do that.
I know. Everyone was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'll save him. I'll save him myself. And sitting there quoting NA at someone who's downing vodka.
Not
like,
gonna
something's
work.
gonna go in. I'm like, are you having fun? He's like, no. I'm like, I can see so. Why are you still drinking? Yeah, but that's how hard I took it, and that's how far I went to try save him. And the grace in that is that I still did not relapse, even though I was picking up his cocaine. And, you know,
That's such a dangerous space to put
I know,
yourself in.
but for me, I know that my rock bottom was bad enough that I don't see this line. I see that moment in the bathroom cubicle. That is what I see when I see substances. It's not going to be this happy one line. You're going to end up back there in that space. And for me, it's not worth it, because it's not about picking up. It's about what you're putting down. So it's a trade-off. I pick up the drugs, but I put down my family, my life, my sanity, my dignity, my self-worth. And that's not worth the trade-off for me. So thankfully I stayed clean through that, but it was a lesson to me. Again, it's always, that's why I love working in this industry, because it's always a constant reminder that this is where substances will get you. They have nothing left to offer me, and I have nothing left to give them. So, yeah.
That's beautiful, guys. That's beautiful. Your story. I'm honored to have had you here. I'm honored to have had you in my home. I think you are exceptional.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy there's a woman like you in the rooms. First of all, we need more women. We need more women of color, and we need people to share a story just like that. And it's unbelievable. I'm just so glad that we connected. And You're one of my heroes, man.
No way.
No. Like, you're one of my heroes, and it's exceptional. So, to everyone watching, if you think recovery isn't possible, if you think your traumas are too big and bigger than you, they're not. You can fight them. You can overcome them, and you can become the person you were meant to be. And it's as simple as that. It's hard work. It's tough. It takes a lot out of you. But trust me, when you get through and you get to the other side, it's magnificent. I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are amazing.
It's been amazing meeting you.
You too.
We're going to go get coffee now. Coffee, guys. Thank you, guys.
Bye.